So what's up people, and welcome to the Mission 82 discussion of Spy Family. So Mission 82 came out recently, and as always I will leave the link to this mission that's currently being shown on the publisher's official website, Manga Plus, for free to the North American audience. So if you're interested, yeah, I will go take a look at it before they pull this mission back. Okay, so Mission 82, this story is getting pretty intense. And when Mission 81 ended, there was a lot of speculation with regards to which character was Twilight. And there was a significant number of people who mentioned that probably in the last scene, Winston was probably actually Twilight in disguise. And what we find out in 82 is that is exactly the case. And so congratulations to many of the people who actually made that speculation. But what I also found to be very interesting is not only the twist that they had in terms of who Twilight was, but also with regards to the twist that they had with regards to this story. Typically, when you see Twilight in action and under disguise, he is absolutely in control of the situation, and he is able to trick everybody into doing exactly what he needs to have done. But in Mission 82, the twist turns out that the story favors the Ostanian secret police and puts Twilight in peril. And so, yeah, this mission is turning out to be a really interesting mission. And of course, this entire story is becoming extremely tense. Now, if you recall in Mission 81, we finished off where Winston was meeting the Ostanian secret police at the park because he noticed that there were many spies from the WISE organization at the hotel. And so he changed the location using Yuri as the communication source. And Mission 82 starts out with that meeting. And what we find out is that it was a very interesting methodology that the Ostanian secret police used to figure out who this person was who was appearing to be Winston. And I thought Tatsuya Endo did a really nice job because typically, once again, you see Lloyd in control, and so you would have expected that this was one of those situations where Lloyd would be able to get away with the information, and we just wanted to find out how he was going to do that. But what we find out in Mission 82 is that the Ostanian secret police's method to identify that the person who came as Winston was not Winston was the method in which the communication was done to identify who Winston was. Now, if you recall, in Mission 81, Yuri knew that the person that he met was Winston because he was wearing a green tie and a green tie pin. And in this final meeting, when Twilight came as Winston, he is also wearing a green tie and a green tie pin. However, the difference comes in the gem that was attached to the tie pin. And in his case, it was yellow. And why this is such an important point is that the Ostanian secret police did a methodology not only to identify if Winston was the correct individual, but to use this opportunity to flesh out any potential spies in the Ostanian secret police. And the way they do it is that they directly inform Winston of what the appearance needs to be. But just in case there are moles in the Ostanian secret police, they put out false information that's only slightly different from the one that Winston receives, but is enough to identify any moles. And that is the gemstone. In the case of Winston, there was no specific change in the gemstone. It was supposed to be green. But what they put out in the Ostanian secret police headquarters to the typical people who would communicate out is that they put out different colored gemstones. And by identifying that the gemstone that Twilight was wearing was yellow, not only did it identify that that was not Winston, but they exactly knew who was the person who leaked that information to the WISE organization. And yeah, knowing how vicious the Estanian secret police is, that one scene where the mole is identified is absolutely terrifying, because you have some idea of what is in store for that mole, even if it's not shown in this chapter. And that is one thing that I do like about Tatsuya Endo. Yes, this is a wholesome story. Yes, this is a comedy. It's hilarious, and it's nice to see the love story between Yor and Lloyd and the family story between everybody. But in the end, it is a spy story. And when it becomes the spy part, he does not pull punches. And I absolutely love that part about the story. And so now, Twilight himself is in major trouble. But as we find out, this is Twilight. So although his identity was compromised, because he knew that this was the location that they were going to meet, just like with Winston when he scouted the hotel before the actual meeting time, Twilight also set up some fail-safes in case something happens at this meeting. So he arrived at this location before the meeting time to make sure that there are back doors that he could get out of. And of course, he triggers those, and that causes the diversion and the ability for him to get away from this situation. Thank God, once again, this is Twilight. And once again, this really shows you just how skilled both Twilight and Winston are, because they use very similar circumstances that makes them a step above all the other agents in either of the organizations. And what's interesting is while the skirmish is going on, which you should read the chapter to see because that action part is pretty good, the Estanian secret police chase after Winston, who is actually Twilight, and eventually they notice that Twilight has taken down Yuri, who he probably ran into, and so they go chasing after Twilight, knowing that Yuri will probably be okay. Now, of course, what happened is that somewhere along the way, and of course this is manga, Twilight was able to instantly change from Winston to Yuri. And so the person on the ground was not Yuri, it was once again Twilight, and that is how he gets away. Now in the meantime, the real Yuri is with the real Winston. And of course their mission is to safely bring that important information to the Estania secret police. However, with the skirmish, Yuri realizes that something wrong is happening. And most likely, Twilight is involved with the situation. Now what he notices are footprints that are going towards the forest. And he realizes that if the Estanian secret police are after Twilight, as an officer of the OSS, he needs to go after Twilight as well. Now this kind of gets Winston upset because the more important mission for them is to bring the information. But being the kind of the inexperienced agent that Yuri is, he feels that he needs to take down Twilight. And so he keeps following the trail, and eventually it leads him to the sewer. And you could see the anger in Winston's face because Yuri is taking them off of what their objective is. But once again, Yuri really wants to take down Twilight because he feels that that is far more important than bringing the information to the secret police. And as he follows the trail down the sewers, he gets attacked by someone. And during that skirmish, he's not exactly sure who it is until he looks at who it is and it turns out to be himself. Now, of course, he's not stupid, so it's not like, oh, that must be me. But he understands that this is Twilight. And with that, the two both raise their guns and you hear a shot. And at that point, the scene changes from Yuri and Twilight to Yor. And she just happens to drop a dish that smashes and cuts her finger. And she curses about it because it's just a terrible, terrible day. First of all, Yuri comes in and accuses Lloyd of infidelity. And it makes her very nervous about her relationship with Lloyd. And the scene ends with blood hitting the ground, which implies that it is from the cut that Yor got, but it also implies that someone did get injured during the shot, and Yor wonders when Lloyd will be able to come back home. And that is a very interesting cliffhanger to go with. So the question this time is, who got shot? Now, from my perspective, and this of course may be wrong because I was wrong the last time, is I think it may be Lloyd. Because although Lloyd is more skilled than Yuri by far, and typically he would be able to outfight Yuri even in a gunfight, this is Yuri. He understands that he is facing Yor's brother, whereas Yuri knows that that's Twilight, an enemy agent that has no relation to him. And so he has no reason to hesitate, whereas Lloyd has every reason to hesitate. And because of that, my feeling is that Lloyd may have been the one that got injured because he just could not shoot Yuri. And that does bring up a point, if that is the case. If it is the case, then what Fiona said many chapters ago about Lloyd becoming domesticated, getting in the way of his spy skills, is validated here. Because as much as being compassionate is important, there's a reason why many of these Black Ops agents and Special Forces soldiers are people who have no family ties to anybody else. Because that relieves them of any sort of personal feelings that may get in the way, and they could do their mission very well. Their job and their world is so dangerous that any feeling of compassion may actually work against them. And if Lloyd is hurt, then we could see that that is something that Twilight would have never done in the past, and it is his relationship with Yor and Anya that has made him falter in this situation. Now, this may not be true because it actually may be Yuri who got hurt, or maybe neither of them got hurt and it's just a red herring that Tatsuya Endo did. So it will be curious to see what happens, and I am interested to see how it goes because Tatsuya Endo tends to put realistic human situations in many of the stories. As much as wholesomeness is important, it doesn't override everything. Sometimes being compassionate to others may get in the way of a situation, and when you are in a Black Ops organization like both Yuri and Lloyd are in, that may actually get in the way. So it'll be interesting to see how Tatsuya Endo writes this story in the future, and I am definitely looking forward to seeing what happens in Mission 83. But this is the Mission 82 discussion of Spy Family. If you read it, what you think about it? Any comments will be greatly appreciated. And until the next episode, happy manga reading. And as always, Jaya, nice day everyone.